My name is Alan Gibberti. I'm the president of the Log Cabin Republicans, the Rhode Island chapter. I'm here to speak on the Second Amendment, the right afforded to all legal law-abiding Americans to defend themselves and their family, not just from individuals who wish to do us harm, but also from a government full of unaccountable bureaucrats that are actively working to impose their will on we the people. As a gay Asian American, my position is not a unique one, but the Democrats would like you to believe that it is. Democrats like Congressman David Cicilline, who would like you to believe that people like myself are safer if we're not allowed to own a firearm. The hypocrisy and cognitive dissonance that spews from the hole in this man's face is astounding. In one breath, Congressman Cicilline will tell people like myself, gay, Asian, that we're under attack, while he enjoys the security of armed protection, and he actively works to take away the right of people like myself to legally defend myself and my family. Why? Because these politicians don't care. Well, right now they do, because it is Pride Month. The Democrats, they have no problem going full woke and proclaiming themselves the saviors of the LGBTQ plus community. I, for one, am not going to partake of the progressive alphabet soup. I'm not going to be waiting for the Democrat cavalry and hordes of social workers to arrive and take care of myself and be responsible for the safety of myself and my family, and I'm far from alone. In the past year, there's been a 145% increase in firearm purchases in the Asian American community. More than 19% of the gay, lesbian, and bisexual community own firearms. And you contrast that with the straight community, where firearm owners total around 37-38%. The LGBT community is an armed community because we know that useless legislation such as hate crime laws do not deter hate crimes, and they're only passed to placate an uninformed population and just to instill in them a false sense of security. What deters hate crimes is a homosexual with a gun, period. This is reality. Instead, we're forced to listen to virtue-signaling progressive politicians drone on about the systemic racism and homophobia, when the reality is that it's their proposed gun control legislation that is racist and homophobic. It is the very legislation that is a direct threat to gay and Asian American communities. Taking away the rights of marginalized people to defend themselves is the real systemic racism. Democrats would like nothing better than to have people like myself dependent on the government for my safety, all while they move to defund the police. The creation of a community dependent upon government for safety only accomplishes one thing: re-election. How ignorant do they believe that we are? And to question any of it, any of the hypocrisy, labels you as some type of racist radical. Not only do we have politicians attempting to make gun laws with zero knowledge about firearms, but they have no desire to educate themselves. You have the mayor of Providence, Mayor Lorza, believing the problem is due to easy access to fully semi-automatic guns. The ignorance is staggering. When you have elected officials blaming gun violence on the environment, on asthma, you have to shake your head at the idiocy. When you look at the rise of violence and shooting here in Rhode Island, you have to ask yourself, which of the proposed gun legislation would have prevented it? None of it would have. The only people affected by any of that legislation would be law-abiding gun owners and criminals. They would get a pass. And like the other crime-riddled states, it's the same criminals who are given the pass and then sent back on the streets to do it all over again. Perhaps we should ask Rhode Island House Judiciary Committee Representative Jason Knight, who by night advocates for gun control, but by day works to have charges like felony gun possession or unlicensed firearm dealing charges dropped or pled down. Perhaps if Lord Farquaad had decided to enforce the laws already on the books, we would see a drop in gun crime. But then again, how lucrative would that be? So my fight for freedom continues on. You are your own first responder. You are the help until help arrives. In a country where there are millions of legally owned firearms, people like Rep. Jason Knight are willing to punish law-abiding citizens, throw the most vulnerable of society to the wolves, all to placate the mob. The moms who, instead of demanding for action, should be demanding for an education and focusing on the actual issues that cause gun violence instead of lying to the American people. And speaking of ignorant lies, you have Linda Finn for the Rhode Island Coalition Against Gun Violence. She wants me to believe that I can call the police faster and get them to respond to an attack than it would be for me to actually access my own legally owned firearm. The stupidity is palatable. You tell me I'm a victim and there's nothing I can do about it. Listen closely. I am not a victim because I choose not to be. It's Pride Month. It's Pride Month, and I am proud. But I'm proud to be an American. I'm proud to be an American who just happens to be gay, who happens to be Asian. I am an American. My rights are absolute, and I can think for myself.